13-time Pro Bowler, 2-time NFL Defensive Player of the Year. It is great to have you in. Howard, first of all, I imagine you're still living in Florida.
I am.
So you just do a little direct flight now. You don't have to go up to Bristol. You can fly across the country, get to a major airport. It's all good?
It's all good. It's all good.
It's interesting. You're an outspoken, prideful guy. And you've told me about your story being recruited, overlooked by the team, Florida State. You take such great pride. I've also had several NFL veterans tell me, and players, nobody's helped me in this league more than Ray Lewis. You take pride in yourself. You take pride in the game. So if Colin Kaepernick was your teammate and in that anthem decided, I'm going to sit down, would it have shocked you? How would you have reacted?
Yeah, it would have not only shocked me, it would have made me have different conversations with him. It's kind of, I think, what the message I want to really relay to Colin, if I'm sitting there next to him, is like, listen, bro, if this movement is as big as you want it to be, then we're going to need a whole bunch of people instead of just you taking one knee. Right, because that shows a very isolated thought process.
And for the record, that's interesting you say that.
Yeah.
Jay Glazer reported a year ago that Kaepernick was increasingly isolated in the locker room.
Yeah.
So his action, in your opinion, is an isolated action.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because, when you think about the move that Colin made, now, there's one thing you have to understand. There's no solution behind it. And then if there's no solution, then we're just, because what he's fighting, I get it. I'm fighting the same thing, but I'm fighting it totally different because I'm in urban neighborhoods. I'm creating economic development in these hoods, right? I'm giving job creations in these hoods. So the only way that you really take out your frustration on these issues of race
and be impactful.
Absolutely, it's be impactful. Is go in there and actually change things. Because when you hear the money he giving out, your money won't do it, Colin. That's the problem. People want to give money. The only way you can really affect real change is you must go in there and do it yourself.
What was your childhood like, Ray? Did you grow up in a tough environment?
Absolutely.
How tough?
Lack of development. Mom raised 5 kids. Welfare. We was really, really, really poor, and we had nothing and no vision. And of course, I was raised without a father, and so all of the dynamics of the kids that usually give up, I lived that.
So you had friends who gave up.
Not only friends. I had mentors who I looked up to that I thought was the next hero, the next superstar.
And they're not here.
They're not here. They're not here. And because they all, it was one thing I told somebody this other day. I told my son this, Rasan this other day. I said, my mother was so strong of a woman that I repay her now for what she taught me then. Right? It was the things that she never let me get away with then that now I appreciate now. But if you think about back then, man, I had friends and talking to their parents a certain way and staying out all times of night. And so the things that I think when you think about old school parents, that's why I tell people all the time, my mother's my hero. Why? It's because I saw her endure in times where we didn't have nothing. But she made a way out of no way.
So for Colin Kaepernick, it's a bit too isolated for you. Do you have a relationship when people initially, because I do think he's listened. He talked to Nate Boyer. He then went to a knee, which I think shows some maturity. Yeah, he's not being rigid. He's not being stubborn. I didn't like the socks he was wearing where he was kind of trolling cops. What are your relationships with the military? I
have a very long, extensive relationship with the military. Yeah, Wounded Warriors Project I've been working with for years. I just came from one of the military bases, Aberdeen in Baltimore area. Did a huge signing there.
So if you would have gone to, you would have not been able to do that with the anthem. Would you have struggled just on that, your relationship with the military?
Yeah, period. So see, and that's the thing, Colin, I think somebody really needs to clear up, right, is that the flag is a different issue. You can think about what you want to think about the flag, but it's the people who stood for that in this country, right? We're not standing here. We're not having this conversation if people didn't go die for this country, right? If you fight for nothing else, the only thing that unites us as a country right now is that. And that's the thing that you can't, I don't care what the issue is. I get it 100%. Listen, I'm in this fight with him. But what he's trying to do and the stage he's doing it is absolutely not the stage to do it on. Right? Because if you want to, and I keep saying this, if you want to really affect change, go into the hoods. Let them see you. How many times have you been in the hood? Are you activists in the hoods? Do they know that you come in the hoods? Do the hoods look at you and say, that's somebody that's trying to save us? Because if not, then you're like everybody else, just picking something out of the tree and say, hey, I'm just going to rally by this because I'm just pissed off about it, right? So I think he just should have I would have grabbed more people. I would have talked to more people to find out what's the best way to do it before I did. And I'll give you the best example ever. I've been speaking to me and Jim Brown been friends for many, many years. And it's similar because I heard somebody say this other day, Colin Kaepernick is making the same stance as Jim Brown. Really? Really? Because Jim Brown created economic development. Jim Brown has saved over 60 to 70,000 gang members now through the America I Can program. You see? So there's things happening.
It's tangible. I can put my arms around what Jim's done.
And that's what makes Mr. Brown so respected in urban neighborhoods.
Yeah. Not all activists are equal.
No, they're not.
Ray Lewis, one of the all-time greats, joining us. Ron Rivera has defended his quarterback Cam Newton, saying that he's faced many of the old stereotypes. It's funny because I always thought Cam is Big Ben. I think sometimes we lump quarterbacks racially. It's like, I always thought Tim Tebow was Vince Young. Mm-hmm. Great college players, mechanically flawed, not really ideally NFL quarterback. Cam, to me, is Big Ben. 6'6", 250. And literally, when you played against Big Ben, and I try to tell people this, just let's pretend we've never seen Cam. Big Ben, to me, didn't look like anybody I grew up with. Go back to the first time you faced Big Ben.
Mm-hmm. The first time I faced Big Ben, I can't tell you the exact date, but I said, oh boy, we got a problem.
First time you hit him. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I said the first time I've hit him, he's just a different player from the standpoint of he's the player that I would call every day out of the house to play with in the schoolyard. Every day, just to compete against him. And so we had a thing with me and him, right? Anytime you saw us play each other, Pittsburgh and Baltimore, he would stand on his side and I would stand on my side. And for the respect that we had for each other, we would put our hands on our hearts and we would both give a bow to each other. Best man win. And it was that type of relationship that made me respect more of who he was. He's just an old school type football player.
Tough guy.
By any means necessary, which is what the game should be like, right? The game is if you win it, you win it. You lose it, you lose it. But don't throw no flags. Don't hustle me that way. Right, beat me. And that's why I think me and Ben, because, Pittsburgh and Baltimore has always had heated rivalries. Always heated rivalries.
But you guys had a mutual respect.
Absolutely. And our respect for each other is what made me really realize, you know what? I love this guy. I love this guy's competition. I love what he gives me every time I step on the field.
I'm reading an article where NFL coaches and executives are increasingly concerned, Ray, that the league is getting younger. Mm-hmm. And I've always noticed Belichick, anytime he can get like an Ed Reed or the late Junior Seau, it's not just their athletic ability. Right. It's what Peyton did to Denver last year beyond his arm. Mm-hmm. You were a veteran player. You could have retired at any point. You could have stayed longer. Right. Do you worry that the league's getting young and it's getting cheaper? When you were in NFL locker rooms, a lot of those Baltimore teams, they were men. They were veterans. Those were smart. You didn't have to explain stuff to those guys. When you watch the game today, do you see sometimes it's too young, it's too inexpensive, and the players don't know the game?
Yeah, it's the biggest problem we have. The biggest problem we have in this game is the owners and everybody wants to keep the next new thing. Right? You want to put Odell Beckham in Jerry Rice category so quickly. Hold on. Pump your brakes. He ain't done enough yet. You want to put J.J. Watt in Reggie White category. Wait a minute. They're not there yet. Right? And when you think about it, man, you think about the way Hall of Famers are looked at, right? And you think about the way the new millennials or these new kids are looked at. And you think about when you walk in there sometimes and you see that a Hall of Famer is receiving less compensation than a player that's currently now. Are you freaking serious? Where does that happen at?
We made Josh Norman the next Darryl Green overnight.
Overnight.
And he's a system corner.
Overnight. And I give you a story that really helps that. I walk in the Pro Bowl in 1998. The good, oh my gosh, rest in peace, Derek Thomas. He's at the Pro Bowl, and me and Eddie George come through the line. I never forget this. And we're standing over there, and he screams to me, home team, don't you walk your young self over here. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But he's at the bar with all of these legends. And he said, don't come over here. You ain't earned this. And it sunk into me. He's right. I haven't earned to be and sit with that group of legends yet. So you know what? I'll be back the next 10 years to make sure I can one day be looked at that. But that's what social media and how they crown these young kids so early now, right? When I was playing, man, do you know that before I even thought about being respected, that I had to be respected by my peers first before I was respected by the media and all these things, the way we highlight these players now. It's a totally backward system, and it's something that if nobody else is going to fight for it, I'm going to fight for it, right? Because you only supposed to go as high as you can go in the business. So if you get to top dog is the Hall of Fame, any way you want to call it.
That's right.
Right? So for once I get there, don't ever put nobody in a category that's playing right now and make them more relevant as me. It just don't happen. I don't care if they're working for you now or not. I think that's the thing that we need to kind of figure out.
Give Luke Kuechly 7 more years.
Give him 7 more years.
And he's already great, but
listen, and I always say, there's a difference between good and great, right? Good is fitting in. Great is fitting out, right? If Luke Kuechly had done anything great, Luke Kuechly would be sitting over here by himself. Luke Kuechly is a good talent, a good young kid who's playing the game at a very high level. If Luke Kuechly wants to be great, Luke Kuechly's going to have to do this 5, 6, 7 more years. And then look back and say, now how do your numbers compare with some of the greatest of all time to ever do this?
Good seeing you, man.
Yeah, good to
Love
see
your
you.
intensity.
Absolutely. Appreciate you.
Great to have you here.
Absolutely.